the number one adverse event for getting the COVID shot is getting COVID itself.
Right.
So notice how their stories changed all along the way. It's good. If you get the vaccine, you're not going to get sick. You're not going to get hot. You're not going to die. Well, then pretty soon, no, it doesn't prevent transmission. Remember, the whole purpose of this thing, if the vaccine was so effective, why do you care if somebody else gets it or not? Mm-hmm. They're not risking your life because you're vaccinated. You're safe.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
But we got to get everybody vaccinated. Why, if it was so damn effective? Well, first of all, it wasn't. Now, then we find out, then next year, you got to do it so you don't transmit it to grandma. Then we find out they never tested it against not transmitting, and it doesn't prevent transmission. It didn't prevent hospitalization. It didn't prevent death. It didn't work.
So all this stuff that you're reading, that it does do all those things, who put that narrative out there?
I think it all starts with the fact that don't we all want to believe that we can be so brilliant that we can come up with something to prevent a particular disease? And again, I think maybe in some cases we can. But I don't know how many of those cases. I do know from reading, like, for example, Dissolving Illusions, the vast majority of the reduction of all these infection diseases didn't come once the vaccines were rolled out. It became because we stopped living in squalor. We dramatically improved sanitation.
Yeah.
So if you look at the charts going back to the 1900s where people did live in squalor, we didn't have proper sanitation, the dramatic reduction in all these infection diseases. Then the vaccines came on. I think it's true. Read Turtles All the Way Down, a very, very even-handed book. I think some of these vaccines actually did help, complete some of the eradication of these diseases, but not all. But all along the way, we completely ignore the types of vaccine adverse events that occur. So you can't come up with an accurate cost-benefit analysis on this thing.
You said,
It just seems like such an elegant solution. We've got something, we give you a shot, and you're not going to get the disease. But the problem is it's not true. I mean, my wife right now is suffering from shingles. She's had 3 shingles shots. She had the original one. She got the latest 2-course. She's suffering from shingles right now. So what COVID has done is open up our eyes.
Right.
All this, and why do we push more and more vaccines? Well, it goes back to that 1986 bill that Gates, once they got a hold of that bill and then added some regulation, absolved vaccine manufacturers of all liability. What a great business model. We can keep pushing these things through. We never test the vaccines on the childhood schedule against a true placebo. So you're testing this vaccine against another vaccine. So if you have adverse events to this one and the new one doesn't have greater adverse events, well, it's safe and effective, just like the first one that's never been tested against true placebo either. And that is one of the revelations. Bobby Kennedy, Fauci kept saying, "Oh no, we've tested these things. I got the studies against true placebo. Well, show them to me." We've never tested any of the vaccines in the childhood schedule against a true placebo. It's an analogy would be testing hemlock versus arsenic.
And seeing which is worse. Sir, when you look this stuff up, this is the part that is just so hard to wrap your head around. I wish I could point someone to a place to prove it, because when somebody goes, well, that's ridiculous. They say they do robust data, and you watch the news and they're like, we do robust data and Kennedy's nuts. But then I personally thought, something, I want to understand this. Let me go to the FDA's website. And I followed through an exercise where I tried to find out what safety studies were done on hepatitis B vaccine. 3 studies, 147 kids total, and they were monitored for 5 days after each injection. And then later they continued to see if the antibody was there. So yes, they monitored it to see if the antibody was still in the human body of the children they gave the vaccination to. But that was it. But Senator, then couldn't somebody turn around and sue saying that is not the truth? In other words, that's not robust safety testing that is not the gold standard of scientific testing. And the narrative, I mean, you could go to any chatbot, you could go to any major legacy news channel, and they will tell you that this is crazy and they are robustly tested. How is that possible? The only thing, sir, people are going to have the hardest time wrapping their head around how this lie can infiltrate all the major medical institutions, all the legacy news channels. How?
So again, science has been corrupted. And Eisenhower warned us about this. He warned us about, in his farewell address, not only the military-industrial complex, but he said government funding of science will corrupt it because you get the result you pay for. So most science is either funded by government or, in the case of drug studies, the pharmaceutical companies themselves.
Right.
Okay. In the case of, GMO seeds from the seed companies. In the case of pesticides and herbicides from those chemical companies. So science has been corrupted. The next level of corruption when it comes to drugs is pharmaceutical ads. And, Jillian, I come from the private sector. I'm all for free speech. Until my eyes were opened up, I would have been totally opposed to banning pharmaceutical ads. But now I know exactly why they advertise. I mean, you see these ads on TV, right? I have no idea what those drugs are for. I just know, people play Frisbee and they're swimming and they're having a great deal of time playing with their dogs, right? And then you hear the tail end of those ads and it's just horrible side effects that they buzz through really quick, which is just a portion of what they really have to disclose on the insert. And you have to, why would anybody spend billions of dollars advertising drugs that the consumer has no idea what they're talking about, but it sure sounds scary to take that drug, but your medical professional will determine whether. The only reason they advertise is to control the narrative.
Right.
So
Yes.
that is what they've done. They've bought and paid for the narrative, which is why a guy like me doesn't get invited on some of these shows to talk about this subject. Invite me on to talk about Hunter Biden, but they don't really want to drive me, run me down the path of tell us what you know about the corruption of our federal health agencies and how it relates to COVID and the vaccine injury. It would be rare for me to be able to give them the opportunity. So, we held that event in June of 2021 with the vaccine injured Bree and Maddie and, Cheryl Rutgers and Candace and Christy. I was hoping, we had about a dozen cameras there. I was hoping there'd be some measure of sympathy from the reporters, but they're primarily wondering, well, Ken Rutgers, you just doing this for money? Do you want to sue somebody? No. We want these people to be able to get treatment, right, to have their injuries taken seriously.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.